Texans head to the polls to early vote west of the metroplex. A tough rematch.
I can't be controlled. I will not be controlled by anybody but the people in my district.
The incumbent claims outside forces are trying to tell the district what to do. His challenger says the man in office took 2 wrong votes.
The voters here deserve true representation that reflect their values.
Plus, Congress returns with only a few short days before a budget deadline. What the state's senior senator says can be a deal breaker.
It takes 60 votes to pass something in the Senate, which means it has to be bipartisan.
And then perspective from a longtime NBC5 reporter.
Laura Miller says she is relieved this re-election campaign is over.
On a changing city, right now on Lone Star Politics.
This is Lone Star Politics from NBC5 and the Dallas Morning News.
Good Sunday morning. I'm Phil Prazen from NBC5.
And I'm Gromer Jeffers, political writer with the Dallas Morning News. Big bucks and anger are the headlines as Texans vote in arguably the most important election in the state.
You have until this Friday to vote early in the March 5th Texas primary, and there is a lot on the line. Votes cast in the primary will determine which Democrat and which Republican candidates will face off in the November general election. The votes will also reveal the depth of fallout for lawmakers who didn't back Governor Abbott's voucher plan or who voted to impeach Attorney General Ken Paxton.
Texas politics are not local anymore. These are national fights, and that can be pretty influential.
It'll be a real test of Ken Paxton's influence and power in his original home base.
According to the latest University of Texas Politic Project survey, the most influential endorsement is that of former President Donald Trump. 24% of voters say that endorsement makes an impact, followed by Governor Abbott with 7% and Attorney General Paxton, who's been very busy, very active in this election. He received less than 1%.
And that same survey found voters were not nearly as concerned with the impeachment of Attorney General Ken Paxton or the governor's push for school choice vouchers. Take a look at these numbers from the Texas Politics Project. They asked Texas voters their top issue, and 64% said immigration, 2% said school choice vouchers, and nobody mentioned the impeachment trial of Attorney General Ken Paxton. So there are some Republicans who took some tough votes on school choice vouchers. They're using immigration to defend their actions.
Free handouts offered to illegal immigrants. That's why I stopped the recent school voucher scheme.
Border security is about more than just walls. It's also about stopping the incentives that encourage illegal crossings in the first place. Last year, I stopped a bill that would have handed out school vouchers, your tax dollars, to illegal immigrants.
That's San Angelo Representative Drew Darby and New Boston lawmaker Gary Van Dever. They're 2 of more than a dozen lawmakers Abbott and his team are trying to unseat by backing their challengers. I asked the governor for a response to their ads.
The fact of the matter is, all of them have used state money to support public education for illegal immigrants. So they're just a bunch of hypocrites. They should be ashamed for doing some gimmick like that. And Texans are smarter than that.
These factors are on display in a race west of Fort Worth in Texas House District 60. The mostly rural area includes Palo Pinto, Stevens, and Parker counties. It's a rematch in the Republican primary. A Fort Worth native, retired from academic research, will again try to grab the seat from the incumbent. Mike Alcott served as a Parker County Republican precinct chair and is co-founder of the grassroots group Parker County Conservatives. He was defeated 2 years ago by Representative Glenn Rogers, a veterinarian. Representative Rogers is fighting for a 3rd term. He has the support of the Speaker of the House, Dave Phelan, along with the Associated Republicans of Texas, National Rifle Association, local county commissioners, and the Mineral Wells Tomorrow PAC. He argues big money is trying to punish him and push him out of the seat. Here's part of our interview. Let's just start with the basic question of what do you think this race is about?
I think this race is about who most wants to represent their district. And I think that's really important. Are you representing your district and the things that are needed here, or are you representing some billionaire ideologues that maybe have their own interests that aren't the interest of this district?
Tell me more about that. So feel free to name names. And so you think that of who's supporting Alcott on this?
Certainly. I mean, the 2 most powerful political figures in Texas are Ferris Wilkes and Tim Dunn. And if you look at organizations like Defend Texas Liberty that have backed my opponent, they supplied 90% of the funding for that organization. And each of my races I've run against the same funding, the Wilkes and Dunn. I run in all three of my races, the same funders.
What do you think are the biggest policy differences between you and Mr. Alcott?
Okay. The first one would be education. Mike Alcott supports defunding our public schools. He's for privatization of our public schools, and I'm a huge supporter of public schools. I believe that they're the backbone of our communities. I know they're the backbone of our communities. In most of our smaller communities, they're actually the leading employer. And people are moving to Parker County. Specifically, it's not as rural anymore, but they're moving here for our great public schools. So that is a very important criteria for me.
This is the school choice voucher issue?
Certainly, it is. Yeah, and we voted to strip the voucher language off of HB 1, and we never did have the opportunity to vote on teacher pay raises and funding for school security.
Let's drill down on that, just so I understand what your position is. Are you somebody who says no school choice vouchers at all, ever, or would you be supportive of, I guess, a smaller, tailored program to special needs or to anything?
No, I wouldn't support a small voucher, because once the camel's nose is under the tent, then it's going to go up from there. So I'm a hard no on that. Now, I know a number of my colleagues are willing to take a small voucher, and they feel like it will stop there. I don't think it would. I think once you do that, you're going to continue to grow that entitlement program.
That got you in the spotlight of Governor Greg Abbott. He's supporting your opponent. What do you think about that?
I've supported Governor Abbott on every legislative priority except this one. And I'm disappointed that the governor did not endorse me, but that's his priority, and it's very important to him. It's very important to me as well, and we just differ on that issue. I look forward to get back into Austin and working with the governor, especially on the border and all the great things that we've worked on together.
Do you feel like a lot of this it may not be a campaign against you, but a campaign against how the House works and the Texas House as an institution?
I think we're at a crossroads. Within the Republican Party, there's two parties within the party. There's the party that is controlled by Wilkes and Dunn and their organizations, and there's the party that's not controlled. I'm in the latter. I can't be controlled. I will not be controlled by anybody but the people in my district. That's who I ran to take care of and represent, and I will continue to do so. I just don't succumb to that kind of pressure, and I've taken a lot of heat over it on both the Paxton issue and the school voucher issue.
I also sat down with the challenger, Mike Alcott. His endorsements: Governor Greg Abbott, Senator Ted Cruz, Attorney General Ken Paxton, Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller, and a big one just last week, former President Donald Trump. Here's part of our conversation. First basic question of what do you think this race is about?
I think it's about true reflection of representing the conservative values of this district. I think I feel blessed to live in probably one of the most conservative districts in the state of Texas, and I think the voters here deserve true representation that reflect their values.
So tell me more about that. What is Representative Rogers doing that's not reflecting conservative values?
He's voting with the Democrats far too often. He joined the Democrats to impeach one of the most conservative and effective attorney generals in Texas. He supports awarding Democrat chairs to very powerful committees, and even despite the fact that more than 90% of Republican primary voters are against that. And so I don't think he's actually listening to the voters, what they want.
The Paxton vote is a big deal in your opinion.
It is. And I think it's primarily because of the process in which it took place. I think it's widely known that Speaker Dade Phelan wanted his Republican caucus to take that vote and to impeach Paxton. And I think the sad thing is that many of those Republicans, I believe, voted to impeach Paxton because they knew Speaker Dade Phelan wanted them to. And I'm going down there to represent the voters. I'm not going down there to work for Dade Phelan. And I think that's one of the big contrasts between me and my opponent.
What's your position on the school choice voucher policy?
So I support, my main reason for supporting empowering parents with the ability of taking that money and let it fall on the child is the fact when I hear the stories of what's happening in Austin, San Antonio, and Dallas, some of the inner cities, of what these children are being taught that go against my Christian values, that pictures of inappropriate material in the classroom, being taught there's 82 genders, being taught that capitalism is bad, America's bad. If you're a parent in one of those school districts, what choice do they have? And I just feel like with what's happening in some of the school districts in Texas, they should have a choice. And I oftentimes tell people if the whole state of Texas was like our school district, I don't know if I would support school choice.
So I asked Representative Rogers about that, because there's a spectrum of, which specific policies and who's covered and how much.
Sure.
He was a hard no on all of it.
Yes, he was.
Where do you fall on that? Are you, everybody should get an education savings account that wants one, or does there need to be rural carve-outs or special circumstances, special needs? Where do you fall on the specifics?
I think overall I support universal school choice. I don't think we should discriminate, any children over anybody else. I think people should be able, like I said, anyone that feels like their children is not getting the education they deserve, or if they're feeling like their children are being indoctrinated, they should be able to make a different choice.
How big of a deal is well, obviously the Trump endorsement, the Abbott endorsement?
Sure.
How big a deal are those?
I think they're big. I mean, the Trump endorsement just happened yesterday, so I mean, other than the fact that my phone pretty much blew up and I've still got more than 400 unread text messages, I'm trying to do my best to keep up. That was unexpected. I'm delighted to have it. The Governor Abbott's endorsement has been huge. I think some people in this county in particular think that maybe I'm too conservative for this district, but I think with Governor Abbott's endorsement, I think that's actually placated some people's concern that I am very conservative, but mainstream enough to where they can vote for me.
Well, I did do some Googling on you. I understand you supported Huffines in the race against Abbott.
I did.
Thoughts on that now?
Yeah, sure. Nothing against Governor Abbott. The border is my #1 issue, and it has been for a very long time. And I liked his plan for the border, but it was nothing against Governor Abbott. I just, and of course, when Governor Abbott easily won the Republican primary, I was happy and delighted to vote for him in the general.
Cromer, this is an absolute dogfight, I think it is, because there was only a couple hundreds of votes that separated the two last time.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Huffines situation. I'm surprised that he still got Abbott's endorsement because of that.
He changed. Abbott changed. He used to endorse Glenn Rogers, and now he endorsed Mike.
Shows you how much he wants vouchers. But this is about how connected Rogers is to his district, because you have all these outside forces coming in, and that Trump endorsement is huge for Alcott. But if Rogers is connected sufficiently to his district, he could weather the storm as he has in the past. But Abbott and all those folks and Trump,
they want him. They want him gone.
Yeah, that may be a big hurdle to overcome. We'll see.
Check out our voter guides online on NBCDFW.com and DallasNews.com. You'll also find our extended candidate interviews online and on our streaming channels, including Roku and Samsung TV Plus. We've been here before. A looming government shutdown with less than a week to go. Why this time could be different, and we could see the doors close in Washington, D.C. And he's been covering Dallas government for more than 20 years. Now NBC5 reporter Ken Kalthoff is preparing to sign off one last time. He joins us next to provide some input on the changes he's seen over the years in DFW and city politics. You're watching Lone Star Politics.
Week until the next U.S. government shutdown deadline, Congress remains at an impasse. The only other option to keep the government open past this Friday, March 1st, is yet another stopgap, something called a continuing resolution. It would be the fourth since September.
The Senate passed a bipartisan package of foreign aid for Taiwan, Israel, and Ukraine. A key sticking point, however, is if the House is going to attach their tough border security measure, which includes building the border wall and prevents Border Patrol from processing new immigrants, among other border security items. Now, will all of that be acceptable to the Senate? We talked to Senator John Cornyn about that.
It takes 60 votes to pass something in the Senate, which means it has to be bipartisan. H.R. 2, which I support, Senator Cruz and I are co-sponsored H.R. 2 in the Senate, was passed strictly with Republican votes in the House. And so we don't have the votes necessary to pass that as a standalone in the Senate. But again, I think part of the back and forth between the House and the Senate to ultimately get this national security supplemental passed will include border security provisions. We're still fighting that fight.
Also this week, we're expecting the appointment of an interim Dallas city manager. 2 meetings were scheduled after the resignation of T.C. Broadnax. After 7 years on the job, he announced he will step down in June.
And joining us this morning, NBC5 reporter Ken Kalthoff, who has covered Dallas City Hall and so many other DFW headlines for more than 20 years. Unfortunately for us, Ken is retiring from NBC5, but before he leaves, we wanted to talk to him about this latest news and then also covering politics. But so you're heading out on kind of a big story here in Dallas.
Yeah, it is going to be a big story, and it's going to continue for a while. You know, this replacement is coming because there was discord between the mayor and Broadnax for years now. They've sort of had trouble getting along, and some of the council members behind the scenes decided that it was time for him to go, Broadnax, and so they got the 8 votes together, and they're saying he needs to go. But now there's still discord about even how the process is going to go about replacing him with these dual meetings. So the mayor has said that he's not going to go to the meeting on Tuesday that the council members called about how to go about a replacement. He thinks that it should be done by this committee that's going to have a meeting on Monday. And then today, on Friday, at the last minute, the mayor issued another memo saying he wants all the committees to have special meetings about how to go forward and get more public input about all
A turf war of who gets to
Yeah.
decide what happens, huh?
And who's going to be in charge of deciding what happens? Well, the mayor, it seems, wants to make certain that he's the one in charge of how all of this is going to go. We haven't heard much from the mayor directly. He keeps issuing memos or putting out statements, so we have to just take what he says in these little bits. He hasn't been sitting down for any interviews lately. There's a number of different issues swirling around the mayor right now, and I guess he just doesn't want to sit down in front of a camera.
I mean, and, you know, it was reported, and Dallas Morning News reported last week about using campaign money to pay his former chief of staff a consulting fee, $110,000. So there's a lot going on.
And he has a divorce pending.
Exactly.
And so this is a difficult time. I don't relish people being involved in a divorce. That's certainly unpleasant. But there are issues of the day, and so we keep hearing these conflicting memos and meetings. It will be an interesting week ahead.
So you're calling it, you're retiring after so many years on the beat. How has that beat, the City Hall beat, the city government beat, changed over the years?
Well, we've seen quite a few city managers in that time.
That's right.
I was talking with Tanel Atkins about that, and he's the longest-serving city council member, and he's been there for multiple city managers. We were trying to recount who they all were, you know, different personalities, different people. As much as things change, they stay the same at City Hall because Dallas has a lot of very serious problems, and it's really hard to solve all of these. The streets are in bad shape. You know, there's a lot of trouble. There's a bond referendum coming up. Maybe that will help on some of these matters, but it's been a very challenging time for the city. It's because there's so many problems. It's hard to fix.
Has there been a defining story of North Texas or the city of Dallas since you've been here?
It would be hard to say. It's hard to say which is defining. I don't think I could pick one in particular, but there have been so many. I see there talking with Clay Jenkins and the COVID pandemic. That was certainly a very difficult time. The pandemic was probably the defining thing, I suppose. Who would have ever expected we would go through those things? And I've been to the legislature before. I was there when there was the long filibuster.
So what's next? What are you going to do?
Well, I'm not going to sit through as many public meetings. I'm definitely not going to listen to every twist and turn at the public meeting. And I'm not going to stand on bridges, frozen bridges anymore. Someone else is going to have to tell you that it's really cold out there on the bridge.
Yeah, if you have power during a storm, you'll get to watch the coverage now instead of being out there in a big red Parker.
Too bad for all those other folks out there on the bridge.
Well, Ken, thanks so much for your work and for what you do, and good luck in retirement.
Thank you so much.
We're
Thank
gonna
you
miss
both
you.
of you. Thank you.
And we have much more coming back on Lone Star Politics. Hey, that's all the time we have. Stay tuned for Meet the Press with Kristen Welker, including a wrap-up of Saturday's South Carolina GOP primary.
And we'll see you back here next week.